Come for you, bro. Take it personal. Why? Because the devil is a lie. Hey. I'm telling you the truth. Hey. It's all in what you do. Hey. Do. Hey. 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 Barbershop conversations, man. Barbershop. Let's bring that back one time. Select the barbershop conversations, man. Feel free. Hit the subscribe button. In 2.5 hours, we got Trial 4 coming in. We got Elaine Murphy from Trial 4. She was the writer who actually propelled the case into the public's eye, and it's just incredible. Trial 4 is probably, I mean, it is one of the best docuseries Netflix has ever done. That's exciting. And then at 9 o'clock, we're going to celebrate Bob Arum's 89th birthday in the barbershop. You know, his birthday yesterday. We're going to have a good time, and we ask him all the questions that need to be asked, man. And it's going to be Bob Arum Unplugged. You know, that's who he is in the barbershop, and we're going to love it. Feel free to come in. You can ask him anything. You can super chat your question in. Whatever you guys want to do, it'll get asked in your voice. So I think this is the only space in media where you can literally ask. You get a couple minutes, 5 minutes, sometimes 10, with the people you actually want to speak to. So make sure you guys here at 9 o'clock tonight. Now, I just saw something. It's funny because I my dumb ass, right? I type in Earl Spence Twitter. Right. And because I'm not on Twitter much. So I type in Earl Spence Twitter, and it took me to an old tweet. Coincidentally, it took me to an old tweet of Earl Spence saying that how does I beat him? And he's talking about Shawn Porter. How do I beat a man? And then he comes right back, and now he's my #1 mandatory. It don't make sense. And I'm going to agree with that. I'm definitely going to agree with it. And what I was looking for was the Vlad. He turned down Vlad for an interview. And I think that's important. That's actually where we need to start going with this. And we're going to talk about that at the tail end of this video. And I agree, as I digress, I agree with Earl Spence. And here's why. And for a full disclaimer, this ain't personal. I'm just being pragmatic about this. If a man has fought everyone in a loss, right? And since boxing experts like to use the triangle theory, he washed Danny Garcia in a lopsided 9-3, 8-4 victory. Shawn Porter has lost to Kell Brook, Keith Thurman, and Earl Spence. Kell Brook got knocked out by Terrence Crawford, and so on and so forth. So the point I'm making is, I know it's hard for us to do, but we got to start ushering new talent. You know, like Shawn's comeback fight was against Formella, who ended up losing into a guy named Conor Ben's son, maybe. I don't know. I'm not claiming to be an expert on boxing. Just highly opinionated and most of the time factual. And Jaron Ennis fights December 19th against Chris Van Heerden, the same route that he's on the verge of the same route that Earl Spence is taking. It's time for us to start ushering these guys, man. Jaron Ennis, Jamal James, maybe Josh Kelly. Man, there's a host of other people, man, that really, really need to start getting chances, man, because this shit is getting flat, man. You know what I mean? Maybe Maurice Hooker gets a fight and then jumps into contents. He's a former world champion at 140, man. It's time for us to start ushering in new blood. This shit is getting old, man. It's getting old. It's getting stale. We're literally recycling losers. Is Shawn Porter a barometer test for Terrence Crawford? Yes. Do I personally believe Terrence Crawford is better than Earl Spence? No. Do I believe he beats Shawn Porter? Yes, he beats him with distance. He beats him because he has a wiry range, and Shawn Porter does not know how to fight once he gets inside Terrence Crawford elbows. He's going to overshoot, pivot, miss, clinch, reset in the middle of the ring. It's going to be highly competitive. I'm not saying Shawn is a wash, but at the end of the day, Shawn Porter does not have the ingredients to beat a tactical fighter. It's been proven. Earl Spence, Kell Brook, Ugas, 3 fights he should have lost. When I was there, I thought Shawn Porter beat Ugas. When I went home and rewatched the fight, Ugas beat him with the knockdown. Okay, I thought that was a knockdown. I didn't think it was a knockdown live because I couldn't see it. Be honest with you, I was live and couldn't see it. And then, more importantly, let's call a spade a spade. Who's going to pay to watch Terrence Crawford versus Shawn Porter? The fans are not going to pay for it. If they don't support Shawn Porter when they get free tickets and they don't support a Terrence Crawford pay-per-view, the networks are not going to put that fight on. It don't make sense. All right. It makes sense from a competitive standpoint. If Shawn fights Terrence Crawford, it's literally like a gatekeeper on steroids. Like, you know, I mean, Shawn Porter is going to be world champion again, but it's after Earl Spence leave and so on and so forth. I think Shawn Porter missed his opportunity when he was afraid to actually say, yes, I want to fight Terrence Crawford at the beginning of this epidemic. I will always stand by this, and I say this in many of my videos that I did in the past. He would have that fight, Terrence Crawford, Shawn Porter would have gave boxing hope, would have given boxing hope. But if we just strictly talking from a pragmatic perspective, who has Shawn Porter beat? Who has he beat to be thrust back into the #1 contender in all these sanctioning bodies? Who's going to pay for the fight? All right. At the end of the day, Terrence Crawford, I mean, you can go anywhere you want. I mean, I'm gonna keep it a buck. Jamal James is a live dog. Okay. It's gonna be a high volume, high punch count fight with Jamal James. Jaron Ennis, if he gets past Chris Van Heerden, maybe you can throw him in there. But I think we need to start ushering in new blood. Josh Kelly, you know, I don't know who David Vashon, who he is, the IBF mandatory for years. I don't know who he is, but we got to start ushering in new talent, man. This shit is getting old. This shit is getting stale. Keith Thurman wants to fight once a year. Who else? Who's the other? Manny Pacquiao fights once every 2 years. I'm tired. As a boxing fan and a consumer, I'm tired of these fucking fighters bullshitting us. Okay? They're bullshitting us, and I'm tired of it. Fight fans must stand up and say, we want the best fighting the best. I'm tired of eating leftovers a week after Thanksgiving. Shawn Porter is leftovers a week after Thanksgiving. Okay? Danny Garcia now currently is leftovers a week after Thanksgiving. There's only 3 left. There's only 3 left out of this era. Keith Thurman, Terrence Crawford, and Earl Spence. Okay, there's only 3. All right. Now, whoever gets the Keith Thurman lottery, I'm assuming more likely it'll be Earl Spence because he's on, according to Terrence Crawford, he's on that side of the street. But let's start ushering in Jamal James. Oh, he needs a shot. Every time we've seen Jamal James, exciting, 700-800 punches. All right. We need to see how good Josh Kelly is. You understand what I'm saying? Ugas went nose for nose with Shawn Porter, and then he beat Omar. He basically retired Omar Figueroa, and I think he just beat Abel Ramos. So let's if I'm mistaken, if I'm not, I remember this correctly, man. I got the list right here. Let's see who else is on that list. You know, but the reason why we're gonna be stale and dead is because we're not ushering in new talent. How about the Clayton kid, Castano Clayton? Maybe he fights for a title eliminator against Jaron Ennis. You know, let's call it a spade. As boring as much as we don't want to see Sergio Lipinets, but Sergio Lipinets deserves a shot. You understand? And if we get stuck heavy-handed on these fucking 3 or 4 guys forever, man, we gonna wake up one morning and be like, what the fuck happened to the welterweight division? All right. And that's And that's the stone cold truth, man. And I'm trying to be as transparent as possible, man. But at the end of the day, I stand by it. Shawn Porter is a competitive fight versus everybody in the world at 147. All right. Everybody is going to be a competitive fight, but Shawn Porter is going to lose. He doesn't have the skill set to win a big fight. He has the skill set to compete. You understand? They're going to compete, but they're not going to win. You know, it's like the LeBron James Cleveland Cavaliers. They couldn't beat no one in the West. They couldn't. No way. Everyone falls second to the Lakers and the San Antonio Spurs, and you know, that's it. It's nothing. And now the Golden State Warriors. They had a great run. But I mean, let's just be candidly honest, man. We must start. I'm going to interview Jamal James because I think the world needs to fully grasp how potentially good he is and how exciting of a fighter he is. You understand what he gets knocked down, he takes hits, he gives it, he takes it, he punches, he slips, he slides, he gets up off the canvas and wins fights, man. He's from Minnesota, a new market, which I would love to go to in the summertime. And I'm not saying this from a selfish perspective, but I've never been to Minnesota, really. You know, I mean, I've been in the airport, and when you get on the fucking plane, it's fucking 0 degrees, nigga. You freezing when you walk into the plane, but I haven't spent much time. I want to go to, is Prince House a museum? They got the Mall of America. You know, I don't know what else is there. You know what I mean? But I mean, like, who knows? Jamal James could be Earl Spence. You get what I'm saying in terms of fan appeal and exciting. And let's call it a spade. Jamal James is basically Shawn Porter. You get what I'm saying? He has a longer reach, and you know he's more skilled than Shawn Porter. But the point I'm making is, if you want a competitive fight, Jamal James is going to give you a competitive fight against any one of those guys. Terrence Crawford, competitive fight. Earl Spence, they're going to win the fight. I would pick them to win the fight. But at the end of the day, man, it's time that, man, we stop saying that. We're saying the same shit over and over and over and over again. The shit is stale. The welterweight division is stale. Shawn Porter, excuse me. I said this last 2 days ago on my live. Earl Spence, basically, with the win over Danny Garcia, made every fight at the welterweight division irrelevant except Terrence Crawford versus Earl Spence. And in my humble opinion, he kind of separated himself from Terrence Crawford because he has something that no other box at 147 can do: be disciplined and fight like an elite skilled boxer. So I agree with Earl Spence when he says, how the hell does he become my mandatory and not just beat him? Come on, man. We got to start ushering in new talent, man. This shit is stale. And y'all know what the fuck I'm saying. It's stale. We're recycling the same stories, man. So at the end of the day, how good is Josh Kelly? I've only seen him fight one time. I'm not an expert on him, but hey, it don't hurt. How good is I wouldn't want to see it, but I'm saying, like, he deserves a shot at the title, because if you count the knockdown, Ugas beat Shawn Porter. You get what I'm saying? And if you switch one round in the Danny Garcia fight, Shawn Porter loses the fight. And the funny thing about it is, when you watch the Shawn Porter Danny Garcia fight live, in my humble opinion, Shawn Porter won. He was that busier fighter, more active. When I went home and rewatched it, man, Danny Garcia was hitting him with some great inside work, man. Them hooks on the inside, them 2s and 3s he was landing. Whew, some hellacious shit. So, and I actually said that to Barry Hunter in the last interview. I said, when I watched it live, I thought Shawn won. When I went back and rewatched it, I thought Danny won. You know, the fight was that close. You could have went either way with it. Keep it a buck. You understand what I'm saying? And even I believe Kenny Porter said at the end of that fight, he didn't know who won. So the fight was that close. So maybe Ugas deserves an opportunity. Sergey Lipinets, maybe. I know these names are not sexy to us, but if we keep on rehashing and recycling these same names and don't hold boxing accountable to giving us the best fights, I thought it was an earthquake real quick, but it was a car speeding by. We gonna be bored as boxing fans, and we're not gonna. Shawn Porter needs to get to the back of the line or in the middle of the line. Maybe not the back, but the middle. If Jaron Ennis beats Chris Van Heerden, he deserves a Shawn Porter opportunity. Shawn Porter ducked him basically in the Blue Blood interview. He said, I ain't fighting him. But Jaron Ennis is basically on par with what's his name? Jaron Ennis. Let's call a buck. You understand? Because he fought Formella and he fought Chris Van Heerden. And Shawn lost all his championship fights. Fighting for a championship fight, he lost. Vacant title, he won. All right. So excuse me, except I know I stand corrected. He beat the left-hander in New York, right? Was that in New York? Yeah, I know I'm talking about out of St. Louis. So I'm looking dead at him. Damn. Anyways, man. So we got to start ushering in new talent. And that was the problem. See, what we're doing now to Jaron Ennis, James Johnson, what's his name? Jamal James, maybe Josh Kelly, maybe Ugas, is the same thing Shawn Porter, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia did to Errol Spence. All right. Same thing. Thank God he was a normal, humble person, which leads into the segue of him turning down Vlad. You know, this is where it's important that we hold our ground with what's most important. You know what I mean? I salute Errol Spence. You know what I mean? He'll be in the barbershop soon, man. He'll be in here soon. Shout out to what he did for Jaquan. You know what I mean? That was immense. That was special. And he had the time of his life. But it's time for us to turn the corner. I don't care if you're well, I shouldn't say that, but yeah, man, we got to start flexing our power. Let's start flexing our power, even if it's just an interview. Maybe it inspires someone to flex their power in their community, leave their job, start a business. I'm gonna tell you something. Stop calling your business small. It keeps your mortgage paid, your car payments paid, your kids in college, high school, pays for your vacation, and it's a small business because you subconsciously is comparing it to a business which you perceive as bigger, or that the world seems bigger, like Walmart. I don't run a small business. I run a family business that does quite well. All right, I ain't nothing about me small, but my height, 5'7", right? But at the end of the day, salute. Vlad didn't deserve the interview, you know. You know, the media that pushes the fight every day deserves that interview, you know. So, and I genuinely appreciate that. Shout out to Lamert Park too, my hood, you know what I mean. And it is what it is, man. But by no means am I saying that Shawn Porter, Terrence Crawford is not a competitive fight. I'm saying he don't deserve it right now. He just lost, and then he fought Formella, a guy who just wanted to run around and survive, according to Shawn Porter. You know what I mean? Barbershop conversation, man. Salute to Errol Spence, man. Vlad on not accepting it. I wouldn't do a VladTV interview. I wouldn't. You know what I mean? The only way I would do it is if I was walking in with 10 black men. You know what I mean? And it was that type of energy. You know what I mean? And we held him accountable. He wouldn't put that on camera. You know what I mean? Because it wouldn't be made for camera. You know what I mean? So anyways, man, 6 p.m. we have Netflix Trial 4. It's gonna be a phenomenal interview. It's gonna be a phenomenal speech. Her grace, her fire, her vigor is just essential. Elaine Murphy, you guys are gonna thoroughly love that interview. And 9, I know y'all coming back at 9 o'clock. No need introduction. Bob Arum Unplugged is probably some of our greatest work, you know, with your questions, and it's gonna be fun. So anyways, man, barbershop conversations, man. Feel free, hit the subscribe button, and we're gonna rock out. See y'all later tonight. Peace.